Level 1. Below zero. You are 19 years old. Your checking account balance is negative $14. You know this because you checked this morning. You check most mornings, not out of discipline, out of fear. The number moves in ways that still catch you off guard. A subscription you forgot, a charge that posted 2 days late, an overdraft fee that appeared overnight like a punishment for a crime you didn't know you were committing. $34. Gone. For going below zero by $6 for 11 hours on a Tuesday. There is a specific shame to it, not dramatic, quiet. The kind that lives in your chest when you're at a register and you're not sure the card will go through. The kind that makes you do the math in your head before you order. You don't talk about it. Nobody talks about it. But you know the number the way you know your own heartbeat, constantly, involuntarily, without being asked. The bank is Chase, or Wells Fargo, or Bank of America. The name doesn't matter. The experience is identical across all of them at this balance. You are account number ending in 4471. You are a debit balance generating $8.72 a year in interchange fees, and, in a bad month, $102 in overdraft charges. They are not invested in your future. They are billing for your present. Not maliciously, mechanically. You are a category. The category is mass market. Mass market is managed by an app, a phone tree, and a branch associate with 14 minutes to close a cross-sell before her supervisor checks the queue. You do not have a banker. You have a login. The rules at this level are simple and brutal. Go below the minimum, you pay. Need a loan? You pay a higher rate than someone with more money would pay for the identical product. Dispute a fee? Wait 7 to 10 business days. Call the branch. Hold music. Walk into the branch. Plastic chair, paper number, screen counting down. You are not a client. You are a product. The credit score they've assigned you is 590. One credit card, $500 limit, opened at 18. A student loan not yet in repayment. You don't know that 30% of your score is utilization. You don't know the bank is already selling behavioral data from your spending patterns to third-party modeling firms. You signed the terms of service, 47 pages. You clicked accept in 4 seconds. The system is not designed against you. It is designed around the math of what you are right now. And right now, you are the infrastructure. Level 2, the account number. The negative balance is gone. 3 months, extra shifts, no eating out. $20 moved to savings at a time, like carrying water in cupped hands. $2,000, $6,000, $15,000. The bank does not notice. You are still mass market, still a login, still a phone tree. What changed is not how the bank sees you. What changed is how you see the bank. You learn the rules from the inside. A $500 buffer in checking you treat as zero. The overdraft fees stop, not because the bank changed, because you changed the geometry. You set up direct deposit because the bank waives the monthly fee if you do. Small moves. Each one saves you something. None of them were explained. You found them yourself. Then, one evening, buried in a personal finance thread, you find something that makes you set your phone down. Your savings account is paying 0.01% interest. The bank has been holding your money, earning on it, and returning almost nothing, while charging you 24% annually on the credit card it issued in your name. An online institution with no branches and no marble floors is paying 4.6% on the same dollar. Your bank never mentioned this. Not once. Not in any email, any app notification, any conversation. You move the savings. The bank sends no farewell. Income grows. A raise you don't inflate your lifestyle to match. A side income that climbs from $1,500 a month to $4,000 over 2 years. The balance crosses $40,000, then $70,000. The morning anxiety changes shape. It stops being fear and starts being something that almost resembles momentum. That shift is not financial, it is psychological. And the psychological shift is what every next level requires before anything else will change. The bank's algorithm processes your direct deposit every 2 weeks. A credit card offer arrives in the mail. A personal loan pre-approval appears in the app. You are being tracked, not by a human, by a model. The model says you are not yet worth a phone call. The model is not wrong. You are building. The bank is waiting. Level 3, on the radar. The number crosses $80,000 in savings and investments combined. 6 years of not touching it. A market that cooperated more than it didn't. The bank notices. Still not a human, the algorithm, but the segment upgrades. The credit card offer in the mail is now a different card. Higher limit, travel rewards, no foreign transaction fees. The app surfaces things it never showed before. A mortgage calculator, a retirement projection tool, a wealth management page with a soft focus photo of a couple on a sailboat. You are being positioned. You are not yet being served. Credit score is 730. You go into the branch to ask about a mortgage. The associate is warm, helpful, and reading from a decision tree on a screen you cannot see. She offers you a rate. She doesn't tell you, because she doesn't know, that the same bank has a preferred client division offering a lower rate to customers with investable assets above $250,000. The gap between what she quotes and what that division offers is worth $31,000 over the life of a 30-year loan. You are $170,000 away from that conversation. You take the mortgage. Sign the papers on a Thursday in a small office that smells like carpet cleaner. Warm handshake. Congratulations on the new home. You leave feeling like you got something. You did. You just don't know yet that a better version existed in the same building, one floor up, for a person with a larger number. The door was there the entire time. Nobody mentioned the door. That is not a conspiracy. It is a system, and the system works exactly as designed. Level 4, the preferred client. The investable assets crossed $250,000 on a Tuesday in March. A bonus, 6 years of compounding. The threshold passes without ceremony on your end. The bank notices immediately. 3 weeks later, a letter arrives. Not an email, a letter. On cardstock that weighs more than normal paper. Preferred client program. No monthly fees on any account. A dedicated banker assigned personally. Access to preferred mortgage rates, the rates you weren't quoted 2 years ago. Priority routing, a credit card with a $25,000 limit. The dedicated banker's name is Michael. He calls to introduce himself. 22 minutes. He knows your balance, your mortgage rate, your credit score without asking. He mentions, carefully, that your mortgage is above what preferred clients receive today, and that a refinance might be worth discussing. He is not wrong. He is also cross-selling. Both things are true simultaneously. That is Michael's entire job, to make the cross-sell feel indistinguishable from the advice. What changes at this level is not the products. The products existed before. What changes is information flow. You now have someone whose job is to tell you things. Not everything, but things. Savings rate improves 40 basis points. Credit limit doubles without you asking. You get a call when rates move in a direction that affects your mortgage. The system that was extracting from you at level 1 is now investing in retaining you. Not out of warmth, out of math. A client at $250,000 today becomes $1 million in a decade. That client brings a refinance, a business account, investment assets, their children's accounts. Michael's job is to make sure you're still here when that happens. You are now a long-term bet. The warmth is real. The calculation behind the warmth is realer. Subscribe, because what comes next is what they will never put on the website. Level 5, the wealth management client. Investable assets at $1.6 million. The business is profitable. You have a lawyer, an accountant, and now, for the first time, a wealth manager. Meeting on a higher floor. No line. No number in your hand. Coffee in a real cup. A vice president with credentials after her name who manages 80 clients, knows your children's names before you say them, and has been briefed on your full financial picture before you walked in. The fee is 1.0% annually. On $1.6 million, that is $16,000 a year. Then October comes. The market drops 22% in 6 weeks. Not a correction, a collapse. Every headline is catastrophic. Your portfolio is down $290,000 on paper, and it looks, on the screen, like a number that will keep going down forever. You are lying in bed at 11:30 at night running math you are not qualified to run, and arriving at conclusions that feel certain and are completely wrong. She calls at 8:20 the next morning, before coffee. She doesn't open with reassurance. She opens with data. The last 4 drawdowns of this size, recovery timelines on each, the tax cost of selling now versus holding. She walks through it like a surgeon describing a procedure, precise, calm, without false comfort. Then, one sentence. She says, "The clients who called me this week asking to sell are going to call me in 18 months asking why they sold." You don't sell. 18 months later, the portfolio is higher than it was before the drop. That call was worth more than every fee you've paid combined. What you also receive here: tax loss harvesting that saves $9,000 in a single year. Access to a private placement at a $100,000 minimum that doesn't exist in the retail market. An estate plan that routes assets to your children without probate friction. These aren't perks. They are the product. Access to things that have always existed, just not for people below the threshold. What you don't yet ask, but should: whose interest does this structure primarily serve? The question will take 2 more levels to ask clearly. Level 6, the private bank. Investable assets cross $9 million. A business exit. A wire that cleared on a Wednesday morning and changed the number on the screen in a way that still doesn't feel proportional to what it represents. A different call comes. Someone senior. Brief. Precise. He doesn't pitch. He describes. The private bank. And then he asks one question. He asks when you are free and where. The first meeting is at your office, not theirs. He travels to you, arrives 5 minutes early, asks your assistant for nothing, sits in your waiting area without impatience, the way someone sits who has done this 1,000 times and understands that traveling to the client is part of what he's selling. You are at your own desk when he walks in. Something shifts that you can't immediately name. Then you name it. For 19 years, you walked into buildings that belonged to the bank. Branches, higher floors, rooms where they set the rate, managed the clock, decided the terms. You traveled to them. You waited. You were grateful when they called back. Now, one of their people has boarded a flight, scheduled around your calendar, and walked into your building. Nobody announced the reversal. Nobody made a ceremony of it. But the direction of travel is the hierarchy. And the direction just changed. The ratio changes too. He manages 14 relationships, not 1,400. 14. He knows when your accountant filed your taxes. He knows the maturity date on your bonds. He built a memo on your financial situation before this meeting and updated it after. Products available here don't exist in the wealth management division. You can borrow against your portfolio at SOFR plus 80 basis points to fund a real estate acquisition without selling a single position. Equities keep compounding while the deal closes in 9 days. You pay no tax on borrowed capital. This strategy existed in theory at the last level. Here it is handed to you before you think to ask. Private placements. Co-investments alongside institutional funds. Municipal bonds structured for your specific state tax profile. A lending facility that activates when you need it and disappears when you don't. But your banker will not tell you this. The bank has proprietary products. Those products generate internal revenue. Their allocation in your portfolio is not random. The advice is real. The conflict is also real. Both live in the same sentence. You don't see it yet. You will. Level 7, the family office threshold. The number is $50 million. It didn't arrive at once. It arrived through exits reinvested, leverage used precisely, a market that rewarded discipline across 2 decades, and one decision at level 5, not to sell on a Wednesday night when every instinct said otherwise. The private bank still manages the relationship. The fees are now $500,000 a year. The bank earns more from your wealth than most surgeons earn from medicine. You hire an independent advisor. Flat fee, $35,000 a year. No products to sell. No revenue tied to placement. Her first review takes 6 weeks. She identifies 5 positions generating above-average fees for the bank and below-average returns for you. She finds a tax drag that has been running silently for 3 years because nobody flagged it at the construction level. 3 years. Bleeding quietly in the wrong direction. The conversation with your private banker is calm, professional, and slightly uncomfortable in the way that accurate information sometimes is. The positions are restructured. The relationship continues. The audit becomes annual. The quarterly review now happens in your home office. 3 people fly in from 2 cities. Printed reports with your name on the cover. They sit at your table and wait for you to begin. You offer coffee. And for a second, just one, you are 19 again. Negative $14. Quiet shame in your chest. Doing math in your head before you order. Sitting in a plastic chair with a paper number, watching a screen count down. That person walked into buildings that belong to the bank. These people flew to a building that belongs to you. The bank was never your enemy. It was a machine calibrated to extract from you at your level and invest in you at the next one. The warmth was real at every level. So was the self-interest behind it. Both were always true simultaneously. The preferred rate you weren't offered at the branch. The October call that saved you from yourself. The private placement that didn't exist until you crossed the number. The banker who now boards a plane to sit at your table. All of it existed the entire time. You just weren't in the category that received it. Somewhere right now, a 19-year-old is checking her balance at 8 in the morning. Negative $14. Account number ending in 4471. Quiet shame. Math before she orders. No idea that the same institution running that $34 fee has people who fly to the homes of their best clients and wait patiently in the lobby. She doesn't know because the bank doesn't tell you about the next room. It only opens the door once you can afford to walk through it.